welcome to In the Key of Life. I'm Seth Flake, and today with me I have Dale Rushing. Dale, you're based out of Tupelo, correct?
We are. I'm actually from Morville, outside of Tupelo, but Lee County area. Yeah.
And you play with the Russ Bodie. Let me say that again. The Russ Bucket Roadies.
That's it. It's a mouthful when you say that. Russ Bucket Roadies, and we are kind of scattered. We've got our guitar player is actually from close to New Albany. Mm-hmm. Danny Strange, and then we've got our bass player who's been with us for about a year and a half, Chris Folks. He's from Caledonia, Mississippi, close to Columbus. And we've recently had to pick up a new drummer, Keith Shaddix. He's from around the Amory area. And Keith played with, years ago, a lot of different people. He's traveled all over the country, but he's recently played with the Sweet Tea Jubilee Band.
Okay.
Some folks might remember Keith playing with that group.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, that's us. We play around a lot of different places.
Awesome. I remember, talking to you back when you were first kind of trying to put the project together
Right,
and everything.
right.
And, I've been kind of surfing the web, checking out what you guys have been doing.
Right.
I remember you looking around for an upright bass player.
That's right.
It looks like the guy you got is mean on that bass.
He is that. He's we call him Pee Wee, Chris Folks, and we had to keep him in line. He gets out of line a little bit, but he is very energetic. He is real animated playing. And if you've never seen somebody actually play an upright bass in a rockabilly mm-hmm. style band or blues style band, he really, I don't see how he does it, because he pounds away at that thing all night long.
Right.
So. And he's getting better every time we play, I think.
Sure.
So he's really good.
And you guys do some harmonies too, as well, right?
We do a little bit of that. We're working on more and more of the harmonies. I started off singing with a group, 10 years ago, called the Tempos, and we did a lot of oldies music, and we sang to tracks. And that was our mainstay was kind of a doo-wop, and I really love the harmony situation. We just haven't got to that point where I would really like to get to without the full harmonies and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's kind of comes after the music for
Right,
most people.
right. I'm very fortunate to have some guys that's been around for a while, played for a while, and of course, as I mentioned, Danny Strange from here in New Albany. Mm-hmm. Danny has played for years, and he's played with people like Percy Sledge, and he was Jumpin' Gene Simmons' guitar player for 20 years, I guess.
Cool.
So, and he's played with some other big artists. In fact, he played a little bit with part of the guys from The Who.
Uh-huh.
That's how far back he goes.
Wow.
And how involved he's been with music through the years. So.
Sure.
But he's played a lot of different genres, but he loves the rockabilly, the blues style, the Mississippi bass music, and that's really where we're coming from. People ask, what do you play? Well, it's hard to describe really what we do, because we play so much of a mixture of Mississippi music, and Mississippi itself has been known for about any kind of genre,
Sure.
really. So, we do anything from Carl Perkins, Elvis, the rockabilly style, to the Muscle Shoals style of music. We do some Dan Penn type music that was recorded over the Muscle Shoals, and then we do some of the Delta Blues. We do some Stevie Ray Vaughan. We do some, and we even do a couple of songs with the Steel Drivers.
Oh, cool.
We do some Chris Stapleton music.
They were just in town.
Yeah. So we mix it up with soulful bluesy style music come out of Mississippi, and we're not opposed to doing a little classic country or even a gospel song from time to time. So we get asked to do a lot of different styles of music. So.
Well, it sounds like you guys are doing a good job of broadening out and being eclectic.
We're trying to be a little bit different, and I think it's for a while. I thought, well, is this the right direction? Is this what we need to be doing? Can we identify ourselves as? Mm-hmm. And that's the biggest thing. Sometimes people want you to identify to something, and if you don't, they're not sure who you are or what you do. But once they hear us, I think they get a pretty good idea. It's kind of funny. A year or so ago, I don't know, I was calling casino after casino after casino, and I'm like, they said, what do you play? Well, we play rockabilly. Mm-hmm. Well, we don't have a need for that here.
Yeah.
It didn't really fit our demographic. And so we finally get in at Fitzgerald Casino, we play, and everybody in the place, young, old, it didn't matter.
Right.
Male, female, they all come up and say, hey, that's the best we've ever heard anybody play in here. And we've been fortunate enough that Fitzgerald puts us on typically about a 3-month rotation. We just played there A few weeks back, we'll be back at Fitzgerald in June. And we've played at Samstown. They're trying to make some spots available for us at Samstown to play there. But at the same time, we love going. We play a lot at Ground Zero. We'll be back there in July, and it's a blues place, but they like that style, rockabilly. We do a little Chuck Berry for them over there. They love that kind of stuff, and we kind of mix the oldies, but we also do some of our own arrangements on some of that stuff. It make it a little more fresh, more current type deal, and that's kind of the direction we've been trying to go with it. But I think it's kind of starting to pay off for us.
Yeah.
We've been real fortunate. I've talked to a gentleman by the name of Quentin Jones, who is part of the Landmark Records out of Pennsylvania, and he has been well known in the rockabilly circuit, and he has agreed to come on board and work with us if we decide to go that direction. And then just today, I actually got a phone call from a group out of Atlanta that's an independent label over there that's kind of interested in kind of seeing what we could do.
That's awesome.
So fingers crossed, we may wind up with a label at some point in time and doing a little music, kind of what we're doing.
Yeah.
But like I said, make it our own when we play it. So it's kind of neat.
Well, I hope whatever comes around the corner is what you guys need.
Right, absolutely. I mean, we've been together getting close to 2 years, I guess. Danny and I have played together for a while. I had a group called the Mississippi Blues Mafia. We played here in New Albany at a couple of the benefits a couple of times, and had too many band members. We had sax players, harmonica players, and really in this area, it's really hard to for a band to go out with more than 3 or 4 band members and make enough money to even
break even.
And of course, that's not counting the cost for the instruments and that we've got involved, and the practice time and everything else you put into it. But so when we started pulling this thing down, Danny and I began talking about it. He really liked playing rockabilly stuff, and some people may remember me as an Elvis impersonator. I had done that for some time, still do it, get calls for it from time to time. And so I had kind of done some Elvis music, and we had a guy that did kind of a Jerry Lee tribute type thing, that played piano, and he played with us for a short period of time. And so that's kind of the reason we started kind of pursuing this rockabilly music, but we've kind of slipped into, I don't know, just anything from rock and blues to rock and country, and we're just kind of in that mix, I guess, is where we're at, kind of Americana, Ameripolitan, honky-tonk, rockabilly, whatever you want to call it. So, and there's people that's kind of, it's had a resurgence.
Definitely.
And we are seeing a pretty good movement overseas in some countries that's that's still hot right now.
They're very interested in Muscle Shoals, and those guys draw from the Carl Perkins era. It all ties in together.
And I've been involved in some other projects, after getting kind of involved with rockabilly and looking at it. I'm one of these, I guess it kind of has to take it and analyze it and figure out why we haven't done certain elements. So a few years back, I got one of the state representatives involved, and Tennessee, from the state line to Jackson, Tennessee, they have Rockabilly Highway, which is the 4-lane part and the old part of the old highway. So
is that I-40?
It's at 45.
Part 45.
Yeah, Highway 45.
Somewhere in that country.
But the original part is now 145. And they at the time had contacted some folks in Mississippi and Tupelo and asked them about being a part of that, and never got the Mississippi movement going with it. So anyway, I got Randy Boyd from Manatee, one of the state representatives, to present a bill to rename. We first looked at the 4-lane, but there's some kind of law or passage or something. We couldn't do the 4-lane. But we went back and talked about it and said, really probably needs to be the original road, which is 145. They renamed the original road, 145, as Rockabilly Way. So we didn't, you got Rockabilly Highway, you got Rockabilly Way. Now the Tennessee folks are going back and going to try to adopt their old highway as Rockabilly Way as well. So you'll have the road between the hometowns of Carl Perkins and Elvis as Rockabilly Way. Now, that's not the end of the story there. When I began researching this thing, I thought that'd be neat to have Carl Perkins and Elvis's hometowns, but when you begin to research the historic value of what Highway 45 offers to not only rockabilly music, just music in general, and the influence it had. We've all, I guess, grown to believe or been led to believe that rockabilly just happened one day when Elvis walked into Sun Records and recorded "That's All Right, Mama," and that's not the case. There's a lot of different other factors that factored in that. Carl Perkins actually recorded at a home recording studio in McNairy County, Tennessee, which happens to be on Highway 45,
right,
a couple of years before Elvis recorded at Sun Records. And Carl recorded Good Rockin' Tonight and Wine Spodio. And he recorded both of those. It's rockabilly the way you want to look at it. And Carl also played some of the clubs along Highway 45 in the Tennessee area. And he also played, there was a Sunday afternoon jam at the Chevrolet dealership, I believe, Chevrolet Ford one, at Selmer, Tennessee. And he was a regular playing there. That's how he got on these recordings in McNairy County. So they've discovered these recordings and figured out, hey, this rockabilly thing was already here before Sun Record came along. But the other amazing thing about the music, Carl and Elvis is probably the two pioneers of the rockabilly movement. Dewey Phillips is from McNairy County.
Okay.
And Dewey Phillips is the DJ that had the Red Hot and Blue radio show in Memphis that played all the blues music. Dewey Phillips was the first DJ to ever play Elvis's "That's All Right, Mama,"
okay,
which kind of took off, and that was kind of where all of a sudden opened the door for everything else. But rumor has it that Elvis had actually gone and watched Carl Perkins perform, and Carl did a version of Blue Moon, Kentucky. And some may even say that he may have took Carl's version of Blue Moon, Kentucky when he recorded on the B-side of "That's All Right, Mama."
There's a Drive-By Trucker song that kind of alludes to such.
So when you get into it, some people now are backing up and going, hey, wait a minute, Carl Perkins is kind of the key, big daddy here, really, when it comes to rockabilly. But not only that, when you get into Highway 45 and the people involved, Elvis's guitar player, Scotty Moore, is from outside of Jackson, Tennessee. Right. So he was familiar with Carl Perkins. Right. He knew what Carl Perkins was doing. There's a guy that is from Tishomingo County, Mississippi, last name Claunch. He was good buddies with Sam Phillips, and he did a show on WLAY, which Sam was a DJ in Florence, Alabama. So he and Sam had already familiar with that kind of music, but Claunch played on a lot of the records at Sun Records. And then you get into people like Marcus Van Story, who's from Corinth, Mississippi, who's off Highway 45. He's the stand-up bass player that you hear on a lot of the recordings at Sun Records. Jerry Lee was one of the session piano players. In fact, Hayden Thompson, who's from Prentiss County, off Highway 45, he recorded there at Sun Records, and Jerry Lee is the piano player playing on his couple of his songs. Yeah. And Hayden has done really well in other countries, and in fact, he lives in Chicago. He goes overseas and performs over there. And he called me here a week or two ago. I mean, he's a super nice guy. But then you got people like Homer Ray Harris, who is from Manatee, Mississippi. Homer Ray records at Sun Record as well, and he was actually there for some of the first Elvis recordings. He's in the studio. But Homer Ray, a few years later, goes with Bill Black and opens up, and Mr. Clont. They helped start High Records in Memphis, which Al Green and all that Memphis sound come out of. So, here's a guy from Mississippi that's responsible not only for the rockabilly, but he also influenced that Memphis soul sound that Sam and Dave and Al Green and those type guys. And he's in the Stax Hall of Fame up there in Memphis. He's listed in there. You got other people like Jumpin' Gene Simmons from Tupelo. You got just a lot of people that's from that Highway 45 corridor. But not only that, you also had people in we know Elvis performed 1955, 1956, 1957 in Tupelo. He performed all three times. We lose sight of sometimes of his performing there. Johnny Cash also performed in 1955. Right. And there was two guys that showed up. Nobody knew who they were, other than the people that put the event on together. Jerry Lee and Roy Orbison showed up and formed in 1955 in Tupelo.
Wow.
And they're not on the billing nowhere.
Right.
In fact, in 55, Elvis is in the top billing.
Yeah.
He's second on the billing. And and then later you had Wanda Jackson, who is probably known as the queen of rockabilly, performed it. Warren Smith, who was a big rockabilly artist. Jumpin' Gene Simmons, Charlie Feathers, who is from Holly Springs, Mississippi. All these recorded at Sun Records, and they all played at Tupelo, which is amazing. And then there's another little known fact that people don't know. Billy Lee Riley was a major rockabilly star. I mean, he could have been another Elvis, but Billy Lee moved, he was from Arkansas, but he moved to Tupelo and lived there almost a year, and before he moves to Memphis and starts his own band. So here's another Hall of Fame rockabilly guy who lived in Tupelo. Johnny Burnett, most people may or may not remember Johnny Burnett. Johnny Burnett is from Memphis. He goes to Sun Records and they won't record him. So Johnny leaves Sun Records, he comes to Boonville, Mississippi, where there's the Vine Theater there, which hosted several big shows like Elvis and Johnny Cash. They also had their own recording label. Johnny originally records at Vine Record Label in Boonville, Mississippi, and then goes on to another label. Of course, people don't realize the influence there. Johnny Burnett died early in life, and he had a brother. Burnett brothers played together, but they had some sons, and one of their sons just played with Lindsey Buckingham and them, and played rhythm guitar for them for a while. And they're real involved in music, been involved in music for a long time. But Rocky Burnett and I forgot what the cousin's name is, but so they're still influencing music through their dad, and people like that. Johnny Cash, people, he's from Arkansas, but he is from Arkansas, but when he originally began starting in music, he comes to Houston, Mississippi, to WCPC. He records demos there, and Mr. Mathis, who owned the station, takes him in under his wing, tries to send him around and get him hooked up with a record label, but he's also booking his shows for him. And Johnny performed along Highway 45 too.
Are you familiar with Pocahontas, Mississippi?
I think so, yeah.
It's kind of right on the Tennessee line.
That's right.
Highway 57 comes through. There used to be an old schoolhouse at the corner of that main Pocahontas Road in 57.
Right.
And my grandmother and aunt got to see Johnny Cash.
Is that Stantonville, Mississippi? Stantonville, Tennessee, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it may be. But she got a signed picture. And, she's pointed out that little schoolhouse. And, Johnny Cash played there.
And there's a lot of undocumented places that Johnny played in North Mississippi because Mr. Mathis was doing a lot of this booking for him. So, his first initial phase of starting off in music, he learned how to address a crowd by local folks.
Yeah.
And Elvis did the same. I mean, a lot of his early on shows, there's probably a couple of dozen places that Elvis played along the way.
Right.
And those are things that we're trying to search out and find and put the history together. But there's too much history just along Highway 45 that connected Sun Records and rockabilly and all the other kind of stuff that happened from 55, 56, 57, 58 that's too coincidental.
Sure.
And I tell people all the time, Memphis may have built the stadium, but we provided the players that played in the game.
I was going to ask you, who your influences were, but you've taken me through a pretty good tour of that up Highway 45, which is some incredible history and things that I didn't know about.
Yeah.
Would you say playing with the Rust Bucket Roadies that helped you kind of find some more of this history, or did that history drive you to want to be doing what you're doing with the Rust Bucket Roadies? It's
kind of a little of both. I started doing some of the Elvis. I like some of the Elvis music. Am I a fanatic about it like I have seen some folks? Probably not. But I kept talking to these people coming here from overseas. And they kept, it's great to go over and see the birthplace, and you hear the story of the birthplace, and you go down to the hardware store there in Tupelo, and you hear the story of that. But the people that I talk to from overseas, they're trying to figure out how to connect the dots of how Elvis got influenced and how he went the direction he did. And although we probably taught him how to say yes ma'am and no ma'am, I don't know that early in his life that we really influenced him that heavily other than gospel music, which he had a fondness for. But there's an interesting story I was going to tell you about. We knew he was 55, 56, 57, but in 1954, before he was really famous, he'd been down to Sun Records, and they've kind of talked to him, and he was kind of playing, trying to make his way into the music scene. He played with Eddie Bond, who was from the Highway 45 close to Jackson, Tennessee. He played a little bit in Memphis with Eddie Bond. But in 1954, the sheriff of Lee County, we're still trying to find some details about it. He has a show there in Tupelo, and he hires Roy Brown. Roy Brown is an African American guy who recorded a lot of different labels, but he is the guy who originally recorded Good Rockin' Tonight, and it was a boogie woogie. Some call it rock and roll prior to the rockabilly movement.
Right.
Roy Brown is playing in Tupelo, and Elvis knows he's going to be there. And apparently Elvis at some point in time had tried to get them to let him on stage, to be on the stage with him before. They wouldn't let him on the stage. However, Roy Brown's drummer liked to partake of the whiskey a little bit. Elvis bribes him with a jar of moonshine to get on stage. He's on stage in Tupelo, Mississippi, where he was born, playing with Roy Brown and his group. And they go ahead and let him come to 2 more events. He goes to Indianola, Mississippi, and another town and plays with Roy Brown's. 6 months later, Roy Brown is watching TV or hear radio or something. He's hearing this guy that begged to get on stage with him singing his song and Good Rockin' Tonight. And so to me, that's probably one of the most pivotal moments in Elvis's singing career.
Right.
It's being on stage. That. The other thing is there's some interviews Elvis gave that he saw also Arthur Crudup in Tupelo. Now I don't have details where that happened at and what went on, but he had said in interviews that he saw Arthur Crudup play in Tupelo. Who Arthur Crudup is the guy who did "That's All Right, Mama," which was the song that kind of popularized Elvis, basically. And he talked about how he played the guitar and how he, cut up, playing the guitar. And Elvis made a comment: if I could ever play a guitar, I want to be like Arthur Crudup. So that's two of the most pivotal moments, not only Elvis's career but music history. And both of those events took place in Tupelo. So, we can debate whether buying the guitar at the hardware store or living close to Shate Rag or whatever in Tupelo had a big influence. But to me, the 2 biggest things is those 2 events.
That's really cool. That's a lot of history that I didn't know about.
Right.
And to hear your passion about it, and I can see how that has come from their careers all the way to today and is still affecting your music.
It does, and I think it affects a lot of people's music. Even if you go in the country genre, if you go into rock and roll genre, I mean, it's just amazing to see the influence of Carl Perkins and Elvis on the Beatles, and the Beatles' influence on the next band and the next band. So it's kind of carried over, and they've kind of taken that in today's music. I mean, it's still today is part of what's carried the music scene as long as it has.
I know you guys talked about putting your own spin on some stuff, having some labels interested, getting some big play at Clarksdale, Ground Zero and stuff, the casinos. Sounds like you guys are really got a good momentum going.
We've got a little momentum. It can always be better. We wish it was better.
What's the plan? What's your plan, or what's your goal? What would you like to see happen with?
But when I put this thing together, I don't want to say I don't care about the American music scene, but my whole purpose and goal is airplay and possible touring time in some other countries. And we've been fortunate enough. We've been played some of our music in the UK. We've had some people that liked our web page or whatever from overseas, and we've on some of the online stuff. There's a Rockabilly Radio that's carried some of our stuff, and also Speedway Radio, which are both in that vein of boogie, rockabilly, rock and blues type music. They have played a little bit of our music. So I'm real quick to tell people I'm an international recording star. I'm like Jethro Bodine. So, but that's the goal. At where I'm at my age and where these other guys are at my age, we know that rockabilly is not going to be mainstream music by any means, and we know that we're probably not going to be TV stars or big recording stars. But we want to be able to re-educate the younger folks, but also give some chance to relive some memories to the older group as well. And so that's kind of where we're coming from with our music. We may throw in some other genres as well. I mean, I kid with them all the time. I said we're gonna take a CeeLo Green song and we're gonna make a rockabilly song out of it. And some of the, if you look online, that's kind of a popular thing now. The post-box jukebox group, they'll take all these different genres and make them another genre. And that's kind of a popular thing. That's something I would like to see us do as well at some point in time. And I've also made the remark, I'm going to get somebody to rap on a couple of our songs and have rapabilly and start a whole new genre. But music as a whole and in general, I mean, I don't try to classify everything as any kind of genre. If it's good, it's good. And I've listened to all kind of stuff and researched a lot of different kind of stuff.
If somebody out here watching today wanted to check out the Rust Bucket Roadies or even book you guys, what would be the best way to get in contact? Probably
on Facebook. I've got a web page, but I don't keep it updated. And don't keep Facebook updated as much, but we are on there. My phone number is on Facebook. And just look us up, Rust Bucket Roadies, ROADIES. And we're playing a lot of different places. We played in New Albany for the Relay for Life last year.
It's coming up pretty soon, I think.
Oh, is it? Well, I was kind of amazed. We did our show last year, and obviously I don't know if I guess we've gotten better. But I've done it in the past, and we've had good responses in the past, and people liked us. But this past year when we played, we had several of the other bands that was like y'all just shamed us or something. But but they really liked what we did, and they had some great bands.
It's great to get feedback like that.
But they come out, several of those guys, and said, look, y'all guys, y'all have done a lot of work in your routine and what's going on, the way you put it together, and how tight you are and how well you're playing. So. Sure. But there again, that's credit to the guys who play behind me, and I think a lot of every one of them. So
awesome. Well, Dale, I really appreciate you coming out and sharing your time with us today.
Absolutely.
All these stories and history.
Yeah.
Everybody, check out Dale Rushing and the Rust Bucket Roadies. I'm gonna get it right. Stay up with them. They're doing big things. I'm Seth Blake for TV 99. This is In the Key of Life. Thank you for watching.